How's it going, Teal Boys? It is the end of the season, and this episode we're going to go ahead and go through all of our postseason stuff up until we get to week 1. We can see as we're going into this in a lot of recruiting battles, everybody pretty much on our board at this point that hasn't committed, I think we are in a battle with. But Joel Hall, the 75 overall defensive tackle, might be who we're going to throw all our points behind. We'll take a look. Oh, good. They have, it seems like, decided to offer us a contract extension after going 9-4 and winning the bowl. I think that we will go ahead and sign that one. So we come up to the coaching carousel on this season, and we will kind of take a look at some of this after we sim through it. But the first two that are popping up, Stanford and Pitt, kind of interesting. David Shaw had his contract expired, so I assume they will re-sign him here. And Pitt has fired Pat Narduzzi. So I'll scroll through this list of coaching changes here, and we'll see if there's anything that pops out. Just kind of looking at the head coaching. Okay, BYU has fired Satake, so that's a big change. McElwain gone from Central Michigan. Brom is fired from Purdue. Steve Sarkisian gets picked up by West Virginia. I don't know about that hiring. And after scrolling through the rest of the hirings, both for head coach and both coordinator positions, it doesn't seem like there was really anything crazy. Bull gets fired at Wyoming, but nothing too out there. Now we get to take a look at what players we're losing. Oh, it's gonna be potentially devastating. I always hate it. We do have a freshman outside linebacker who was redshirted, trying to transfer. He's he's homesick. Interesting. He wants to go to Georgia Southern. See if we can convince Shane Bruce. Persuasion chance isn't all that great, and it's going to be hard to promise him a whole lot, and we don't want to screw up our promises. So you're going to play in more than 6 games? And yeah, we won't be able to keep him around. Other than that, this is where it gets a little bit sad. We're going to lose a lot of talent. Trey Carter is graduating, 82 overall right guard. That is a massive loss. Overson, our punter's gone. Steven Badowski's gone, 75 overall at right tackle. I think that next season we're going to honestly be a lot worse than we were this year. CJ Brewer, the man who had so many sacks on the season, set a school record. 84 overall left end is gone. Silas Kelly, I think he had some pretty clutch interceptions. Teron Jackson, just all these big guys. Sam Denmark is gone. And honestly, Denmark came up clutch a lot, but he also had a lot of drops on the season. I mean, it's got to be, double digits. 12 drop passes is a lot for us in this game, so that's pretty disappointing. Then we're losing CJ Marable. That one hurts quite a bit too. Couldn't get him to 1,000 yards on the season. Longest of only 26, but 10 rushing touchdowns and no fumbles on the year. Teddy Gallagher, it will be going, another mid-80s overall player. We lose Greg Latushko, who at 70 overall honestly played a lot better than his rating would show. And that wraps up the rest of our graduating class. A lot of guys going. Hopefully we can replace it. We're definitely not going to be at the same level of talent, but hopefully our overall talent starts to increase. And we will say goodbye to these players as we move to see if anybody is willing to transfer. Unsurprisingly, nobody from the team gets drafted. I think we'll be a ways out on that. And we do have 2 transfer requests, and I think that we might be very, very interested in these. Now, it is important to remember that these players will have to sit out for an entire season. But I'm tempted to say, why should we not take both of these? Emmanuel Bush coming over from Marshall. He's a freshman. It looks like that he got redshirt this year. 67 overall. Not terrible. Not the best that we'll see, but he could provide some very good depth for us. And then how about this? Rashad Cheney Jr. coming from Minnesota, the redshirt freshman, he'll come in basically and be a sophomore for us. 74 overall. We can't pass that up. I think we're going to allow both of these defensive tackles to come play. And if at the end of the day we have to cut one of them, I'll feel a little bit bad, but sometimes that's the name of the game. So we have gotten our 2 transfers, which will take up 2 of our scholarships in the recruiting game, which is honestly good because it will help shore up this class. But now we can go in to the recruiting board. We have 9 scholarships remaining. That's fantastic. 10,000 points. I think, honestly, what I'm going to do is just look at our overall. We're 1,800 behind Ole Miss. We didn't offer a scholarship to Sidney McRae. Is there a chance, or do we just go all in on this defensive tackle, 75 overall? He is a JUCO, but could be useful. Or do we look for a running back in Marshall Preston? Another JUCO guy, but we did just lose CJ Marable, which is going to be a big loss. You know, I got to take a second here to think of how we're going to replace these guys. There are 4 or 5 other players that I think that we really even look at here. And I'm starting from the bottom overall wise. Kevin Cook, he's only 66 overall. We are 700 points behind ECU, but he's an offensive lineman, and that's always something that I want to be getting good depth on. You never want to be short on the offensive line. So we have a candidate in the 6'3", 307-pound man from Berea, South Carolina. Brandon Parker, a wideout, 67 overall. A little bit short at 5'11", and he's not the quickest receiver either, so I'm not super stoked on picking up Brandon. Then we have Mike Johnson, a 67 overall defensive end. Again, linemen in general are very, very nice to pick up. 6'5", 232 pounds, and we have a 400-point lead. Then we go up to Gamara Kelly, 67 overall tackle. We have a healthy, almost 3,000-point lead over Clemson. So I think that maybe we give him a few points just to kind of be like, hey, yeah, we're still thinking about you. We still care about you. And then we're back to the top 3 guys on the board. So I honestly got to think, even though he's a JUCO, that we can't pass up this immediate talent in Joel Hall. He won't be around for a long time, but it's very, very big. So right off the bat, we're going to be looking to give him a lot of points. Maybe not, what are we thinking? 6,500 to start with, and then we'll see if maybe we bump that up. Oh my gosh. How about that? I just stopped that on the dime. I'm impressed. I hope that you are too. So we have 3 guys that we're looking at here. Kevin Cook, Mike Johnson, and Marshall Preston. Marshall is another JUCO guy. We haven't offered him a scholarship. He's being looked at by a bunch of Power 5 teams. But it's not so crazy. What are we looking at here? 95 speed is incredible. 85 acceleration, maybe not so much, but 95 speed. Even if we pick him up, he could be a pretty solid return man if he doesn't see the field otherwise. So we'll offer him a scholarship, and I think we're going to give him a couple thousand points. We're not too far off. It doesn't seem like Oregon, South Carolina, Stanford, and even Boise are really pushing too hard at him. So he's going to get 1,500 for now. And then let's give the rest of our points to... Well, let's take a look. We've got 3 tackles committed, with maybe another on the way. We might get Nate Smith, but he's not good at the guard. I know that we have 2 centers. On the defensive side, we have a defensive end and 2 defensive tackles. So we've already picked up more offensive linemen. We're expected to get Joel Hall, which to me realistically means that we don't need either tackle or defensive end. So I think that we're just going to guarantee that we get the better tackle and give the rest of our points to Gamara Kelly. If you have other ideas about how recruiting or how you would do recruiting in the offseason, let me know, because I'm always looking for ways to change up how I'm playing this game, because I think that there are ways that we can get it done. But for me at this point, you know, we've already signed so many guys to the team. We know that we're going to sign a few more. I would rather spend my points on a couple guys to make sure that we get the recruits that we want, that we're in battles with, and then just hope that the players that maybe we're not quite as high on decide to commit. So we're going to call it there, hoping that we get Joel Hall, Marshall Preston, and Gamara Kelly in our National Signing Day. As a quick look, as we head into National Signing Day, we are sitting at 89th in the country. What's the top? Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Miami, USC, Penn State, top 5. 3 5-stars for Notre Dame, 2 for the next 3 teams, and then 0 for Penn State, surprisingly. So we'll go ahead and advance here to signing day and see who is it that we pick up. And how about it? We pick up Sidney McRae. We get Joel Hall. So those are massive. And then we get... wait, we got Sidney McRae? I got a little bit confused. I saw 3 names up on the board pop up. We weren't really actively recruiting Sidney McRae. We get Sidney McRae, Joel Hall, and Gamara Kelly. We lose out on Marshall Preston. He's going to go to the Ducks. And as we go down, did we pick anybody else up? I'm not sure why this isn't in yellow, but Mark White supposedly has committed to our team. We'll see if that's true. We pick up Jonathan Williams, a wide receiver, and then that's it. So 5 prospects there. 1 gem, 3 3-stars. I'm curious, what does that do to bolster our class? And let's just scroll through real quick to see who it is that we ended up getting. And I gotta say, I don't remember offering Sidney McRae. I think he still didn't even have a scholarship for him, and Ole Miss had the lead, but he chooses us. So we pick up a 76 overall true freshman defensive end. That seems like a massive pickup for us. We get a defensive tackle that can be plugged in immediately. And just as we scroll down the board, a lot of big talents, and then a lot of guys who I think after a few years will be able to contribute, maybe in limited roles. And then there's Kelvin McCoy. And at the end of that, we actually dropped in our recruiting class. 97th. We do go top 100. I'm a little bit disappointed. I was hoping for somewhere around the 75 mark. I think that we should set a goal for next season, and I'm going to say 60th. I want to be the 60th best class or better at the end of the next season in our recruiting. I think that we can do a lot better. We did sign a lot of 2-stars. I think that maybe these numbers can flip where we get 11 3-stars and 7 2-stars. Overall, though, I'm relatively happy with the way that our signing day went. So now we move on to the next stage again. Position changes. This one is going to be a little bit interesting. We'll probably just be moving some offensive linemen around to create depth and maybe safeties to linebackers or something like that. I'll let you know what we change. As it stands, we have a lot of running backs on the board. Ryden Fordinal comes in as the freshman that we just picked up, and he looks to be the best on the board. Well, we have a few guys sitting in the wings hoping to get a chance. I'm not sure where we'll move some stuff around, but there's a chance that we cut a few of these guys. At left tackle, we're actually going to move Cameron Stewart to the other side of the line to a right tackle spot, just to kind of balance ourselves out. And then we're going to move Gamara Kelly, the freshman recruit, over from a right tackle to a left tackle. And we have a lot of guards. 4 left guards, 70, and then 369 overall. And our right guard, 369 overall players. At center, though, we are starting a sophomore, and then we have 2 freshman recruits behind them. So 65's there. I'm thinking we could probably move the senior Jack Franklin over to that center spot, and that will give us a 70 overall center. It'll allow Jack to get some good playing time in his final year, and then overall we just look a little bit better at the line. We have way more guys at left end than the right end, including the 2 recruits, so I think that we're just going to go ahead and move David Wilson over to the right side, and we'll call that good. Maybe a little bit more depth on the left, and Sidney McRae is going to be very good for us, but that'll work. And we have about 500,000 defensive tackles. So a lot of these guys are going to get cut. Kelvin McCoy is going to get cut. Adam Johnson will get cut. And likely at least Raekwon Jones. I might actually get rid of a few more of them, but we don't need that many defensive tackles. We're not going to change our linebackers. They're not the greatest group. Jeffrey Gunter is definitely the best on the squad, but We won't be moving any of that around. And we're going to move Mateo here from a strong safety to a free safety. That'll give us decent depth at both safety spots. And then we have a lot of corners, or a decent amount of corners. Hopefully they do okay. Maybe a little bit green at the bottom of the depth chart here, but I expect that Derek Bush is going to be able to do some good stuff. Last two positions that exist. Kicker, we have a senior in Massimo Bacardi, so we hope that he does well his senior season. We need to find a replacement. And then Frederick, our freshman punter, is going to be just okay. We definitely are going to be looking for a good kicker or punter in this next season. And that's going to do it. You can see maybe a little bit of a regression. Top players still in that mid-80s, but a lot less of them so far. We still have our off-season training to go through, though, so that'll be useful. And speaking of that, we will go ahead and advance to our training results. So let's go ahead and see how everybody came out. Biscardi's now a 90 overall kicker. He went up +7. That's pretty insane. We're just kind of looking at our top gains. Javon Hiley, 89. Isaiah Likely, 89. That's great. Derek Bush goes up 5. Big winners there. Braden Matz goes up at our free safety spot. Our quarterback, Grayson McCall, goes up to an 83 overall. He's pretty quick. He's moving up in his speed a little bit. How is his passing stats this year? You know, is it going to be good enough? Throw power is up to an 81. Accuracy's up to a 76. Interesting. I wish that we could see a little bit more improvement. Fred Payton, now 6 overall, lower than him. Actually a little bit quicker, so I imagine what the game says is his weaknesses are, yeah, his throwing stats. Bryce Carpenter Jr. is actually better at passing. And he's considered a scrambler, but we might have a new backup quarterback. He is a little bit slower, or a decent amount slower than Fred, but that extra passing could make up for it. At running back, Reese White will jump up to 79, and Pinson jumps up 6 as well, so I actually really like Reese White. Not the strongest back, but pretty agile and fairly quick. Our wide receiver core is very mediocre. Definitely going to be led by Javon Hiley, but we knew that going into this year. At tight end, same situation. Just put in Isaiah Likely's name. Defensive backs also look pretty solid. Our first string is very good. It's just there's a little bit too much drop-off when we get to that second string. So hopefully our stamina is pretty solid this year, but I think that we're in a better place than I expected to be. Now we get to go to the fun part where we cut some players. So now we get to do the fun part of cutting players. Thankfully, only having to cut 6 this year. So right off the bat, we're going to go and look at our overalls. Some of these players, especially the 40 overall guys, are, if you have a player that's 40 overall on your roster and they don't have teams recruiting them, they're a walk-on. If we are able to cut them, we will, but because we don't have enough middle linebackers on the roster, we can't, unfortunately. We already knew that we were going to cut Calvin McCoy, which is a shame for him, but that's going to happen. David Singleton, I think that we will get rid of. We don't have crazy linebacker depth, but he is very, very bad compared to the rest of our linebackers, so somebody else can fill his shoes if we start to take some injuries. We will be cutting somebody, at least, from our defensive tackle squad that numbers in the millions, it seems. So Adam Johnson is a freshman recruit, but he's going to be gone, unfortunately. You know, I always hate to do this. I always feel so bad for these guys, but if you don't have a place on the team, you don't have a place on the team. It's as simple as that. And Raekwon Jones, I think, is going to be added to that list. Only a sophomore, but also only 71 overall, in behind a lot of better defensive tackles, and we just don't need that many of them. At the strong safety spot, we have 4 guys. Unfortunately, Travis Williams, another one of our recruits, I think is going to get cut. I hate to do this, but it also helps that he's from South Carolina, and we're not going to be hurting any pipeline stuff, so I know that we just brought him on, but we're going to immediately cut him. And for our final player that we're going to cut, we're going to go back to the lowest overalls available to us, which it looks like we're going to either go wide receiver, right tackle, or left tackle. At wide receiver, it would be Jonathan Williams, who's 6'1", decently fast for a possession receiver, especially on our team. But overall, not the best receiver there. At left tackle, it would be a 62 overall Harry Robertson, but I think I've figured it out already because at right tackle, we have more depth, and, believe it or not, you might look at that and say, oh, he's going to cut Jamal Coley, another recruit that he just picked up, but no. Unfortunately, we're going to, well, I guess it is a recruit that we just picked up, but we're going to get rid of Andrew White because he's a junior. He is coming in as a JUCO player, only 3 overall better than the freshman. So Jamal Coley, by the time he's a junior, he's going to be much, much better than Andrew White. So the kid from Beaufort, South Carolina, he is gone, and that gets our roster to 70 players. So we are not going to do any sort of conference realignment this season. We'll keep everything as it is for at least one more season. So we can move on towards that preseason where we can find some recruits to add to the board and then set our custom schedule. Alrighty, right off the bat, I like to go through and set my depth chart and redshirt my players and then get into the custom schedules before we go into the recruiting. So that's what we'll do. Redshirt all our guys that we can. Going to be a lot of freshmen, I imagine. David Williams, the quarterback, will sit Ryan Fordnall. Maybe should have cut one of these running backs, but I think they're all pretty decent, and I'm curious to see how it shapes up in terms of which one we add or allow to become the starter eventually. Similar situation with the wide receivers, except we're going to sit Bo Lamb, which first off is a great name, but second is because he's the best guy on the squad here overall wise, except now that I'm thinking about it, we might go Carlos Sanders. He's a possession receiver, but he's a lot quicker. And so while that means that his catching stats and his route running and whatnot are going to be worse than Bo's, it's easier to train those up, I think, than it is to train up the speed. So Carlos Sanders at our wide receiver spot is going to get redshirted. We will set the tight end DJ Johnson. At left tackle, realistically, you only need 2 deep in terms of your depth. I mean, actually, you could go a lot worse than that. It's very rare that a usered offensive lineman gets injured, so 2 is solid enough. We're going to be sitting the third string guy if it's there, or if it doesn't seem too crazy. Willie Lampkin is technically the second best guy, but Donald Wilson could step in there. However, we're going to allow Willie to play this year. We'll reevaluate that in the future. Stevie Holmes and Donald Dunn we're going to sit. Again, don't need to worry too much, and we have an extra right guard that we could use, and then Jamal Coley will sit for this season. So that's our offensive line. Redshirted. Defensive line will sit the right end, David Wilson, and we won't sit anybody on the D end. Left outside linebackers fine. We aren't going to touch our middle linebackers except Reese because he's never going to play for us. So I'd rather just not even have the chance for the game to put him in and get stuck with a 40 overall linebacker. And if something disastrous happens where we do need him, we can always burn the red shirt. Corners, we won't sit anybody. Safety, we won't accept. No, I would say we would sit Aaron Diggs, but I can't afford to lose my returner of the year and All-American. So that's going to do it for our red shirting. Now we can go ahead and make just a couple decisions. We won't change a whole lot of things from the default depth chart, except we're going to put Bryce Carpenter in front of Fred Payton in the quarterback situation. Again, slower quarterback than Fred is, but a better passer, and I would rather have better passing if we do need a backup to come in. At running back, we're not going to change anything. We are changing here around just a little bit of a change to make sure that our tight ends aren't playing wide receiver too much. I'm fine with pretty much all of this, so we will just go and check our kickers. And again, kicker, punter, it doesn't matter as long as the guy with the best kick power is taking said kicks. I don't think that accuracy matters, in my opinion, in terms of the user. And oddly enough, Javon Hiley is our third string kicking guru. But Biscardi will be getting both the place kicks and the punts. And then kick return, very important to make sure that you get the best player, or for me, the fastest player out there, which oddly enough is technically based on speed. The freshman that we're registering, Carlos Sanders, but we're actually going to just get Aaron Diggs to fill that spot, and at his backup spot, we're going to put in the running back Isaiah Conley. I don't really like having my backup being a player that will see a lot of playing time like Javon Hiley, just because I don't want their stamina getting drained if something weird were to happen there. So with our depth chart set, now we can go ahead and set some custom schedules. So I saw a couple things, not a crazy amount of suggestions for what we would pick up, but enough that we have some ideas to work with. So out of conference, it seems like we have some interesting stuff to work with. They have a set at Arkansas, which I'm not against. It's an SEC team on the road, so they'll be updated. And then we have New Mexico. That's going to change for sure. So will UTEP. And then we have the rest of that conference slate lined up. So we'll just see what's available to us. I know that we saw Clemson. I saw South Carolina. I'm fine with both of those. I wouldn't mind getting slaughtered, week 1 or something by one of those teams. So just going through, again, it's got to be a certain amount of Big 12 teams, like half of the conference, maybe a West Virginia, and then the SEC and the ACC. So we'll go ahead on week 3 and make that a bye, because I just dislike having a bye week 1. It feels like a waste of a bye week. So we'll see if a good, maybe a Florida team we could play, or how about this? We'll play a Big 12 school, one of the updated ones, in Kansas State on the road to open up the season. Then we'll play Georgia State. We will take a bye here in week 6 and instead schedule a game week 3 against Clemson on the road. So that's going to be one where we likely get slaughtered. And at this point now we have a Big 12 and an ACC school. So we'll look to find an SEC school to fill this up. We have Bama, we have Auburn. This could be rough. This could be very rough. Well, and actually, after scrolling through all the teams, it's just Alabama and Auburn from the SEC that are available in this week. I know that there was people saying BYU, and I really wanted to as well, mostly just because these two teams played in real life and had a very good close matchup. But because BYU doesn't have updated uniforms, I think that we're going to go with Auburn. And again, we will go on the road there. So it's going to be a very tough out-of-conference, 3 Power 5 schools. Unfortunately, we won't play a G5 out-of-conference school, but this will help our strength of schedule and could, at the end of the season, if we do well enough, pull us forward. I like the basically back-to-back buys to end the season. A nice bit of time to rest up before we go into the bowl game, and I don't know. I think that this is going to be good. It's a B- in strength of schedule, which is hard to get in the Sun Belt. And it gives us 3 teams early on to check out the new uniforms for. And a good challenge where if we do well in this opening stretch of 4 games, we could very well be ranked. And if we take some losses, then at least hopefully they'll be quality losses. So custom schedule is now set. We can go on to the final part of this, which is our recruiting board. At this point, we won't be creating prospects. Maybe something that we could look towards for the future, but for now, we'll just see what the game gives us. And as always, I'm going to go top 100 and just see, is there anybody with interest in us? No, unfortunately not. So we'll be relegated to the list of everybody that does like us. And right off the bat, a 4-star with us forced on the board. We're going to just start adding guys. And we'll cut back when the board is now full. All right, so our board is full, and we're going to start scouting some of these guys. Now, Kind of interesting. Maybe something that you guys can learn to abuse. But in almost every single recruiting class, there is a punter with incredible speed. Aaron Hayes, the 9th overall punter in this class, is that guy. 93 speed, 91 acceleration for a 70 overall punter. Trust me, if we pick him up, we might be running a few fake punts here and there. Otherwise, we'll just start looking. Okay, Neil Boone. Most of these guys that I added, by the way, had at least some interest in us. A lot of them with a lot of interest. So a +4 for Neil Boone. Dane Cook is our first gem. So back-to-back 77 overall linebackers. Eugene McNeil does go down, but still usable. Tom West, mediocre little free safety. Seth Harris, one of the few athletes on the boards, stays at a 70. Not a quarterback. He can kind of run. He can kind of play defense. He can maybe do a little bit of catching. Definitely an athlete. Nick Cannon. Interesting name there. The guard is a 70 overall. Goes up a little bit. Definitely interested there. How about Jason Robinson? Not the fastest, not the best receiver. Could see something. Randy Frazier goes down. Tom West stays about the same. Clayton Miller looks okay. Charles Moore at quarterback is our first bust of the class, so probably going to be removed from the board pretty quick. Bryant McIntyre is a kicker who had interest in us, but goes down. David West is our first quarterback that goes up a decent amount there, or goes up, I guess, I think. Chris Johnson, the defensive end, sitting at a nice 69. We have a couple guys, 5 guys left to look at. Alfred Schmidt goes down. Craig Morse is added, I believe, or maybe, oh, no, the names are all messed up. Added to the board here was what I thought was somebody else. Let me refresh this, but we did find a wide receiver who had a very ridiculous sprint speed that we added onto the board. It must have been Maurice Dingle. Great last name. Not the best acceleration, but 95 speed is impressive, and his catching could use some work, but the route running isn't terrible either. So now just a few guys left to scout. Craig Morse is a bust at wide receiver, which is a shame. Jimmy Massey goes down at tackle, and Terrell Carey, the defensive tackle, the final guy that we're able to scout here, also goes down. So from here, we're just kind of hoping that we find some gems on the guys that we weren't able to scout in this offseason, but not necessarily expecting the best, but hoping that we can find something impressive. We can take our look here before we finish out here at our team grades. So a B+ on coaching prestige is pretty impressive after just a year. Conference prestige is a C+, which, we could do a little bit better, but average ranking in the conference being 56 isn't terrible for a G5. Championship contender for us is a C. We're sitting right now at 61st in the country. We should expect that to see, we should expect to see that go up. Academic prestige is okay, and then it starts to get a little bit weird. Stadium atmosphere isn't great with a 2 home loss streak. Not very good. Average attendance sitting at 13,000 out of our 21,000 max capacity. Definitely want to max that out ASAP. Pro potential is not good as it stands. Neither is our coaching stability. I didn't even think about it. We do keep our defensive coordinator, Chad Staggs, but it looks like we maybe have a new offensive coordinator. So that'll be interesting. Athletic facilities are bad. Campus lifestyle is a D. And our program tradition and television exposure are both D-. Hopefully those go up. Let's take a look here at our coaching situation. It seemed like we got a new offensive coordinator. I never had the pop-up that allowed me to reset coaching skill trees. Maybe that's not a thing on the PS3 version of the game, but I'm totally fine. So defensive coordinator Chad Staggs stays, but we pick up a new offensive coordinator in Bodie Reeder, who's level 10 and has some upgrades for our quarterbacks and our wide receivers, and a little bit for our carrying as well. So ball security, we did have a lot of fumbles last year. Maybe something that could be very useful, and an exciting pickup that I guess the athletic director just didn't bother to tell us about. that's going to be it, though, for our preseason. So I'll go ahead and hit start the season. But as it sims through all of this, that's going to be the end of our maybe shorter episode here. Sorry for maybe a little bit of a delay between the bowl game and this, but I'm going to use the off-season in the game as a little bit of an off-season for myself and take an extra couple of days to get these episodes out and the next season started, just so that I don't burn myself out on this game. I want to get this series going for a while, and the last thing I need is to stop having fun while making them. So took a couple of extra days, but we'll be back to our normal uploading schedule, I believe. 1 preseason All-American, 8 preseason All-Conference players, and we got a couple of busts and gems. So that's a solid amount of XP coming into the season as we will head into Kansas State. I don't know where I'm saying Kent State for, but regardless, Herb Street, as he should, is going to go for them. Although the Wildcats only a B overall, we're a B- on this season. I'm curious to see what our actual overall is on the year, but maybe we have an outside chance as we will head into Manhattan in the next episode, but we'll leave everything in this fresh season for the start of the next episode. I want to go ahead and thank everybody now for 300 subscribers. This has been crazy how big this series has been relative to the other series that I've put up on this channel. So I want to, as always, thank you guys for watching these, because it's awesome. Speaking of, if you guys enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a like, comment maybe what you thought about what I did at the end of the season with the recruiting, or how you think we're going to go, maybe predictions for what our record will be at the end of the season. Personally, I know that we're making it to a bowl game. I have a feeling we'll be around 9 wins again, though. We took some steps back in a few spots on the field. We took some step forwards in others, but also we're starting with 3 very difficult games out of our first 4, so I wouldn't be surprised if we took 3 losses there, and then we would have to win out the rest of the season through our conference to get to that 9-3. So hoping for an upset in these first few games. But yeah, leave a comment on your prediction, and then if you want to, please feel free to subscribe so that you know when more content is posted. And then please feel free to head over to our Twitch channel at twitch.tv/goonmaster. Give us a follow there to know when we go live for some other sports games, or who knows, maybe a little bit of Cyberpunk. I've been enjoying that one, even with all of its flaws. But that's going to do it for us today. I appreciate all the love, and thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Goonmaster. You guys are the Teal Boys, and wherever you are, have a good night or have a good morning, and we'll see you later. Adios.